One of the most common conditions in our society today is social anxiety, or as it's known, SAD for short. And it's something that I have found particularly affect young men today. And right, I am no stranger to it. I've had it since I was a kid, and I basically spent a lot of my late teens and early 20s trying to deal with it myself and just being very confused. And so hopefully in this video, I'll be able to share with you some of the tips and the things I learned along the way that have helped me combat it. And hopefully you don't make the same mistakes. So I'll start off the first tip as being something that is more of like a blanket one, right? It's not a very specific tip, but it's just a general one of exercise, right? You should be exercising every single day. And I don't mean just going for a walk. That's all right. But I mean actually sweating and getting very physical. So like I go running, I lift weights, and the two of these combined just puts me in an overall better mood. And I always notice that my levels of social anxiety drop when I'm doing consistent exercise. And there's countless number of studies that have looked into the link between exercise and happiness and general well-being. It's all there, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to say that the importance of exercise in relation to social anxiety definitely does have a big place. Now, my first specific tip, in relation to social anxiety, is to basically make it your friend and don't try and fight it too much, which does kind of sound counterintuitive, right? You think the more you fight it, the weaker it will get. It's actually the opposite. It's the less you acknowledge it, the weaker it becomes. So social anxiety basically just feeds off of your fear and the importance you place on that fear. Okay, so like we're all afraid of different things, but if you take that fear, label it as fear, but don't allow it to engulf you and define you, then you can actually move through it. It's like, the kid in class who just wants attention 24/7. Then when the teacher doesn't pay attention to them, they start acting better and they don't get as loud and they quiet down a bit. So it's kind of like that. I don't know where I'm going with that analogy, but anyway. Basically what I mean is, in order to keep it weakened, you have to just be okay with having the anxiety. You have to be totally fine with knowing that I'm going to be nervous in this situation. Or, I'm going into the shop and I'm going to be shaking. Whatever it may be. Everyone has their own specific symptoms. But you have to be okay with that. So what I found through trial and error was the more I fought it, so the more I tried to convince myself that I didn't have anxiety, that I was stronger than the anxiety, the stronger it actually became. So it took more of a hold on me. The more I kind of pushed it away, the stronger it came back. So it just showed to me that you have to be patient with it. You have to almost treat it as something that you cherish in a way, which sounds fucked up, but that's what works. So this next advice kind of ties into the whole advice of greeting and acknowledging anxiety as your friend. So this point is dealing with doing things that you don't want to do. All right. So I suppose in regards to a social anxiety realm, you'd basically be going into the situations that you find uncomfortable. Okay. So it's not about going into a situation without fear. That is not the goal here. It is basically, the goal is to have heightened fear. Your brain is in overdrive and you've the symptoms of sweating, shaking. You might feel like you're going to pass out, whatever it may be. That is all good. You need that. What you're doing here is you're going into the environment, you're feeling all of these symptoms, feeling all the chaos that social anxiety brings, and you're sitting in it. That's what all of this is. It is you are enduring the social anxiety. You're not waiting till you are completely calm and then going into that setting that will cause you anxiety, because that doesn't really do any good, because that's not tackling the core issue. The core issue is that setting, being in public, talk with people you don't know, making a speech, whatever it may be. That is what scares you. That's what triggers social anxiety. So it makes sense to me now, but it didn't years ago. But it makes complete sense now that you have to be in that environment and dealing with the symptoms and being okay with having those symptoms to make the next time you do it that bit easier. Those are like the main tips. I pretty much flew through them. But my final kind of parting piece of advice is, one thing you can do is talk about it, right? Talk about how you have social anxiety. For me, for years I hid it. I didn't want to let other people know that I was feeling nervous in a certain situation, that I was quote unquote weak, right? But by actually talking about it and releasing that stress that it has on you, it wants basically social anxiety, and what it brings with it is a lot of shame, right? So basically you have to just feel there's no shame in talking about it, because through talking about it you get stronger, and through talking about it it gets weaker. So yeah, I just want to leave that little bit of advice to end the video. And just knowing, by doing the things that I outlined in this video and constantly moving forward, right, you will get better.